Captain Jae-woo Kim looked out at the endless black space through the window of his ship. The Harmony's Edge was not a big ship. It was built for exploring space and collecting rocks from asteroids. Jae-woo had been flying ships for 15 years, but he still loved the quiet beauty of space. "Captain, we are getting close to the asteroid field," said Soo-jin Park from her seat at the navigation controls. She was young but very good at her job. Her fingers moved quickly over the buttons and screens that showed where they were going. "Good." "Tae-ho, how is our new drive working?" Jae-woo asked. Tae-ho Lee looked up from his engineering station. He had oil on his hands from working on the machines. "The quantum drive is running fine, Captain. But I still think we should test it slowly. This is new technology." "We will be careful," Jae-woo said. "Yoonbi, any messages from Earth?" Yoonbi Choi shook her head. She was in charge of all communications, with Earth and other ships. "Nothing new, Captain. Earth Control says we are doing good work out here." Dr. Hyun-soo Nam sat in the corner, reading medical reports on his tablet. He was the ship's doctor, but he also loved learning about space. "I hope we find something interesting in those asteroids," he said. The Harmony's Edge moved toward a large group of floating rocks. These asteroids might have valuable metals that Earth needed. It was not exciting work, but it was important. "Starting the mining scan now," Soo-jin said. She pressed several buttons, and the ship's computers began looking at the asteroids. But something went wrong. The ship's lights started flashing red. "What is that?" Jae-woo asked. Tae-ho's eyes went wide as he looked at his screens. "Captain, the quantum drive is not working right. It is building up too much power. Can you fix it?" "I am trying, but it is happening too fast." The ship began to shake. Everyone held onto their chairs as the Harmony's Edge moved back and forth like a boat in a storm. "Captain, we have a big problem," Tae-ho said, his voice worried. "The drive is going to jump us somewhere, but I do not know where." "How far?" Jae-woo asked. "I do not know. Maybe very far." The shaking got worse. Bright light filled the ship as the quantum drive activated without anyone telling it to. Jae-woo felt like his body was being stretched and squeezed at the same time. Then everything stopped. The lights went back to normal. The shaking ended. But when Jae-woo looked out the window, he did not see the asteroid field anymore. Instead, he saw something impossible. A huge alien ship floated in front of them. It was 10 times bigger than the Harmony's Edge. Its surface was dark metal with strange lights running along its sides. The ship looked like it was built for fighting, with what looked like weapon systems pointing in all directions. "Where are we?" Soo-jin asked quietly. "I do not know," Jae-woo said. He had never seen anything like this ship before. "Yoonbi, try to contact Earth." Yoonbi worked on her controls for a minute. Then she looked up with worry in her eyes. "Captain, I cannot reach Earth. I cannot reach anyone. We are not getting any signals from home." "Captain," Soo-jin said, looking at her screens, "I do not recognize any of the stars. We are not in our solar system anymore. We are not even close to our solar system." The alien ship suddenly moved closer to them. Lights began flashing on its surface. "They are scanning us," Tae-ho said. Then Yoonbi's communication system made noise. A voice came through the speakers, but it was not human. The voice was deep and rough, speaking in a language none of them had ever heard. "Can you understand what they are saying?" Jae-woo asked. "No, but wait," Yoonbi said. She worked on her controls. "My computer is trying to translate their language." After a few minutes, the alien voice came through again, but this time in broken English. "Small ship, you will stop moving. You will give up. You are now prisoners of the Veltar hegemony." Jae-woo looked around at his crew. They all looked back at him. "Well," he said calmly, "that is interesting." "Captain," Soo-jin said, "should we be scared?" "Probably," Jae-woo said. "But being scared will not help us right now." "Yoonbi, can you talk back to them?" "I think so. Tell them we mean no harm. Tell them we are lost and just want to go home." Yoonbi spoke into her microphone. Her words went out to the alien ship. The answer came back quickly. "You will come aboard our ship. You will not resist. If you resist, we will destroy you. Tae-ho looked at his engineering controls. Captain, their ship has weapons that could turn us into dust in 1 second. I figured that, Jae-woo said, but they want us alive, or they would have destroyed us already. So what do we do? Yun-soo asked. Jae-woo thought for a moment. We do what they say, but we stay calm and polite. Maybe they are reasonable. Captain, Soo-jin said, they just told us we are prisoners. Yes, but they also said we could come aboard their ship instead of being destroyed. That is something. The alien ship moved even closer. A bright light came from its side and surrounded the Harmony's edge. Their ship began moving toward the alien ship without anyone controlling it. They are pulling us in with some kind of tractor beam, Tae-ho said. At least their technology works, better than ours. Jae-woo said. This made Soo-jin laugh a little, even though she was scared. As their ship was pulled toward the alien vessel, Jae-woo looked at his crew. Remember, we are explorers, not soldiers. We will be respectful and try to learn about these people. Maybe they will help us get home. And if they do not want to help us? Yoonbi asked. Then we will figure something else out. We always do. The Harmony's edge disappeared into the belly of the alien ship. Jae-woo had no idea that this moment would change not just their lives, but the entire galaxy. Outside, Admiral Thexmore looked at reports about the strange small ship his crew had captured. These creatures called themselves humans, and they came from something called Earth. But what confused him most was their reaction to being captured. They did not seem afraid. They did not beg. They just asked polite questions and said they wanted to go home. In his long military career, Thexmore had never seen anything like it. The inside of the alien ship was bigger than anything the humans had ever seen. The walls were made of dark metal, and strange lights moved along them like water. Alien soldiers with 4 arms and gray skin escorted Jae-woo and his crew through long hallways. This place is amazing, Tae-ho whispered to Soo-jin. Look at how they built these walls. The engineering must be incredible. One of the alien guards heard him and looked confused. Most prisoners did not admire their captor's technology. They usually cried or begged. They were brought to a large room where an alien in a fancy uniform waited for them. She was taller than the guards and had bright blue markings on her face. I am Commander Zephyra, she said in careful English. I study new species for the Veltar hegemony. You are the strangest creatures we have ever found. Nice to meet you, Commander, Jae-woo said politely. I am Captain Jae-woo Kim. These are my crew members Soo-jin, Tae-ho, Yoonbi, and Hyun-soo. We are from Earth. Zephyra stared at him. Prisoners were supposed to be afraid. They were supposed to ask for mercy. This human was introducing his crew like they were at a business meeting. You are prisoners, she said, trying to sound threatening. Yes, you mentioned that, Jae-woo said. But we still have names. It is polite to introduce yourself when you meet new people. Polite. Zephyra had never heard a prisoner use that word. Of course, you are stuck with us until we figure out how to get home, so we might as well be friendly. Soo-jin looked around the room with interest. Commander Zephyra, your ship is beautiful. How many people live here? People? Zephyra was getting more confused. Sorry, how many beings? Creatures? What word do you prefer? We have 12,000 crew members on this ship. Wow, that is like a small city, Yoonbi said. Do you have families here too, or do you live apart from them? Zephyra did not know how to answer. No prisoner had ever asked about her family before. I have a mate and 2 offspring on the homeworld, she said slowly. That must be hard, Hyun-soo said kindly. Being away from family for long trips, do you get to talk to them often? Yes, we have communication systems. That is good. Family is important. Zephyra felt like her brain was breaking. These creatures were supposed to be primitive. Their ship was tiny, and their technology was simple. But they were acting like equals. You will be studied, she said, trying to get back to normal procedure. We will learn about your species and your planet. That sounds interesting, Tae-ho said. Can we study your technology too? I would love to understand how your engines work. You want to study our technology? Of course, we might learn something new. Learning is always good. A young alien soldier near the door made a small noise. Zephyra looked at him sharply. Do you have something to say, Soldier Morkek? No, Commander. It is just, these creatures seem nice. Zephyra felt a headache coming on. Soldier, they are prisoners. Yes, Commander. But they asked about families. No one ever asks about our families. Over the next few days, the humans were kept in a large room with beds and food. But instead of staying quiet like good prisoners, they talked to every alien who came to see them. Yunbi learned the names of all the guards. She asked about their homes, their families, and their hobbies. She found out that one guard named Velkas liked to grow plants in his small room. You have a garden in your quarters? She asked excitedly. What kinds of plants? Small ones, Velkas said shyly. Plants from my home world. They remind me of my family farm. That is wonderful. Plants make any place feel more like home. Velkas had never talked about his plants with anyone before. The other soldiers thought growing things was weakness. Hyunsu noticed that many of the aliens looked tired and stressed. He asked Commander Zephyra if he could help. You want to help us? She asked. I am a doctor. I can see that some of your crew members are not feeling well. Maybe I can help. You would help your captors. Sick beings are just sick beings. It does not matter if they are captors or friends. Everyone deserves to feel better. This was too much for Zephyra. She went to Admiral Thexmore. Sir, we have a problem with the prisoners. Are they trying to escape? No, sir. They are being too nice. Admiral Thexmore looked at her like she was crazy. Too nice. The human doctor wants to help our sick crew members. Their engineer has been giving advice to our maintenance teams. Their communications officer knows the names of 30 crew members and asks about their personal lives. And this is bad? Sir, the crew is starting to like them. Yesterday, 3 soldiers asked me if all humans are this friendly. Admiral Thexmore rubbed his forehead. What did you tell them? I did not know what to say, sir. Meanwhile, Sujin was talking to a group of young alien officers in the ship's dining area. So you have to follow orders without asking questions, she said. Of course, said Officer Texmany. Orders come from above. We obey. But what if the order does not make sense? What if you have a better idea? The aliens looked at each other nervously. We do not give ideas, said another officer. We follow orders. That seems wasteful, Sujin said. You are all smart. You probably have good ideas. Why not share them? Because we are low rank. So, good ideas can come from anyone. The aliens had never thought about this before. In the Veltar military, rank was everything. Lower ranks did not think. They just obeyed. On our ship, Sujin continued, anyone can make suggestions. Our captain listens to all of us. That is how we solve problems together. Your captain listens to you? Texmini asked. Of course, we are a team. That night, several alien officers went to their rooms thinking about what Sujin had said. For the first time in their lives, they wondered if their opinions might actually matter. Commander Zephyra found Admiral Thexmore staring out at the stars. Sir, we need to get rid of these humans soon. Why? Because they are changing our crew. Yesterday, Soldier Morkek asked if he could make a suggestion about duty schedules. This morning, Officer Texmini questioned an order from her superior. Admiral Thexmore turned around slowly. They questioned orders? Not in a bad way, sir. They just asked if there might be a better way to do things. Admiral Thexmore felt something he had never felt before. Fear. But not fear of weapons or enemy ships. Fear of ideas. Send a message to the Supreme Overlord, he said. Tell him we need guidance on what to do with these humans. What should I tell him about them? Admiral Thexmore thought for a moment. Tell him we have found a species that might be more dangerous than any weapon we have ever faced. Because they fight well? No. Because they make our people think. Supreme Overlord Kethulos sat on his massive throne in the capital city of Veltharion. The throne was made from the bones of his enemies and decorated with jewels taken from conquered worlds. Around him, hundreds of alien species bowed low. Too afraid to look at his face, he read Admiral Thexmore's message again and felt his anger growing. "A primitive species from one small planet is making my soldiers ask questions," he roared. His voice echoed through the great throne room. "Yes, Supreme Overlord," said General Vexithara, who was in charge of all military forces. "The report says these humans treat everyone as equals. They do not understand proper rank or authority." "And this is spreading to our troops?" "Yes, sir. Some crews are starting to ask why they cannot make suggestions or speak their minds." Cthulhu stood up from his throne. He was 3 meters tall and covered in black scales. His red eyes glowed with anger. "This cannot happen. Our empire is built on order, on obedience, on the understanding that some beings are born to rule and others are born to serve. What are your orders, Supreme Overlord?" "Bring these humans to the capital. We will execute them in front of representatives from all our worlds. Everyone will see what happens to those who challenge the natural order." General Vexithara bowed. "It will be done." But on the journey to Veltharion, more problems started. Captain Jaywu had been moved to better quarters on Admiral Thexmore's ship. Instead of staying in his room like a proper prisoner, he walked around the ship and talked to crew members. "Good morning, Lieutenant Zarkol," he said to an alien officer. "How are you today?" Lieutenant Zarkol almost dropped the datapad he was carrying. In 20 years of service, no one above his rank had ever asked how he was doing. I am well, prisoner. Please call me Jaywu. And you do not look well, you look tired. I have been working extra shifts, why? Because my superior ordered it." Jaywu frowned. "Are you getting enough sleep? Enough food? Sleep and food are not important. Work is important." "That is not true. You cannot do good work if you are tired and hungry. On my ship we make sure everyone gets rest and proper meals." Lieutenant Zarkol had never heard anyone say his health was important. "Your captain cares about your health?" "Of course. We are his crew. We are his responsibility. And we are his friends." "Friends?" "Yes. We work together, so we take care of each other." Lieutenant Zarkol went back to work, but he could not stop thinking about what Jaywu had said. Meanwhile, Taeho was in the engine room, watching the alien engineers work. "You could increase engine efficiency by 15% if you changed the plasma flow pattern," he said to Chief Engineer Mexdor. "What do you know about our engines, Primitive?" "I know that energy flows better in smooth curves than sharp angles. Your system has too many sharp turns." Mexdor looked at his engines. The human was right. But no one had ever asked for his opinion on how to improve them. "Why do you tell me this? Why help us?" "Because inefficient engines waste energy and could be dangerous for your crew. I do not want anyone to get hurt." Mexdor stared at Taeho. "You care about our safety?" "Of course. You are people too." That phrase, "you are people too," spread through the ship like wildfire. Crew members who had been treated like tools their entire lives suddenly heard that someone saw them as individuals who mattered. Sujin was having dinner with a group of junior officers when one of them asked, "What is it like to have opinions?" "What do you mean?" Sujin asked. "On your ship you said everyone can have opinions. What does that feel like?" Sujin thought about it. "It feels normal. When we have a problem, everyone thinks about solutions. Sometimes the best idea comes from the newest crew member. But what if you have a bad idea? Then someone explains why it is bad, and we try to think of better ideas together. No one gets angry for trying." The aliens around the table looked amazed. "No punishment for bad ideas?" asked Officer Kelvar. "No punishment for trying to help. The only bad thing would be to not try at all." "What if you disagree with your captain?" "Then I tell him I disagree and explain why. Sometimes he changes his mind. Sometimes he explains why he thinks his way is better. We talk about it." The aliens could not imagine talking to their superiors. Like that, Yunbi was in the medical bay, helping Dr. Hyunsu treat alien crew members. Word had spread that the human doctor could help with problems their own medical officers could not solve. "Your stress levels are too high. Yunsu told Commander Zafara. When did you last take time to relax? Relaxation is for the weak. Relaxation is for the smart. Your body needs rest to function properly. Even machines need maintenance. I'm not a machine. Exactly, you are a living being. Living beings need care. Yunbi nodded. On Earth we have a saying, you cannot pour from an empty cup. If you do not take care of yourself, you cannot take care of others. Commander Zafara felt strange. These humans seemed to genuinely care about her well-being, even though she was their captor. Why do you help us? She asked. Because you need help, Hyunsu said simply. That is enough. Admiral Thexmore received more reports every day about his crew's changing behavior. Soldiers were asking questions. Officers were making suggestions. Some crew members were even smiling more often. Sir, reported his aide, the humans have been asking crew members about their families, their homes, their dreams. Their dreams? Yes, sir. Things they want to do after their military service ends. No one has ever asked them about their personal goals before. Admiral Thexmore felt like his ordered world was falling apart. How much longer until we reach Veltharion? 2 more days, sir. Good. The sooner we get rid of these humans, the sooner things can go back to normal. But Admiral Thexmore was wrong. Things could never go back to normal. His crew had learned that they were individuals with value, that their opinions mattered, and that kindness was possible even in the military. The seeds of change had been planted, and they were growing fast. On Veltharion, Supreme Overlord Cathulos prepared for the execution ceremony. Representatives from 100 conquered worlds were coming to watch. It would be a reminder of what happened to those who did not know their place. But Cathulos did not know that many of those representatives had heard stories about the humans. Stories about beings who treated everyone with respect, who cared about others' well-being, who believed that all creatures had value. Some of the representatives were secretly hoping the humans would somehow survive. For the first time in centuries, they had heard about a different way of living. The execution was supposed to be a demonstration of power. Instead, it was about to become the beginning of a revolution. The great execution stadium on Veltharion had never seen so many different species in one place. Thousands of beings filled the seats, representing hundreds of conquered worlds. They had come to watch the Supreme Overlord make an example of the strange humans. At the center of the stadium was a raised platform where the executions would happen. Around it, Veltar soldiers stood guard with their weapons ready. Captain Jae-woo and his crew were brought out in chains. But they walked, with their heads up. They looked around at the crowd with curiosity, not fear. Wow, look at all these different species, Sujin whispered to Taiho. This is amazing. I wish we were meeting them under better circumstances, Yunbi said. At least we are meeting them, Hyunsu added. That is something. In the crowd, beings from conquered worlds watched the humans with interest. These creatures were about to die, but they seemed calm and even happy to see so many different people. Supreme. Overlord Cathulos walked onto the platform. He was huge and terrifying with his black scales and glowing red eyes. The crowd fell silent. Citizens of the Veltar hegemony, his voice boomed across the stadium, you are here to witness justice. These creatures dared to question our natural order. They spread dangerous ideas about equality and freedom. In the crowd, a young alien from the planet Zixara whispered to her friend, "What is wrong with equality?" Her friend, who was older and more afraid, pulled her closer. Do not ask such questions here. On the platform, Cathulos pointed at the humans. Look at these primitives. They come from one small planet, yet they think they can tell us how to live. They think everyone should be treated the same. That does not sound like a bad thing, whispered another alien in the crowd. Supreme Overlord Cathulos walked over to Jae-woo. Kneel before your betters, human. Jae-woo looked confused. Is that part of your greeting customs? We can kneel if it is culturally important to you. The crowd gasped. No one had ever spoken to the Supreme Overlord like that. You will kneel because I command it, Cathulos roared. Oh, Jae-woo said, understanding now. You want us to kneel because you think you are better than us. I am better than you. Jae-woo looked at his crew, then back at Cthulhu's. I do not think anyone is better than anyone else. We are all just people trying to do our best. A murmur went through the crowd. Many beings had never heard anyone say that all people were equal. You are nothing, Cthulhu screamed. Your planet is nothing. Your species is nothing. Sujin stepped forward. Our planet is small, and we have a lot to learn. But we are not nothing. No one is nothing. Taeho noticed the execution device behind them. It was a large machine designed to kill prisoners quickly. Excuse me, he said to one of the guards. That machine is not built very well. The power coupling is in the wrong place. It could explode and hurt people in the crowd. The guard stared at him. You are worried about the crowd's safety? Of course. Just because we are about to die does not mean other people should get hurt. Unbi saw a young alien guard who looked nervous. Are you okay? She asked him. You look scared. I have never seen an execution before, the guard whispered. That is normal. It is good that you feel bad about violence. That means you have a kind heart. Hyun-soo noticed that several beings in the crowd looked sick from fear and stress. Is there a medical station here? He called out. Some people in the audience need help. Supreme Overlord Kethalos could not believe what was happening. These prisoners were supposed to beg for mercy. Instead, they were worried about everyone else's well-being. Silence, he screamed. You will die now. We understand, Jae-woo said calmly. But before we do, can I ask you something? What? Cthulhu's was so angry he could barely speak. Why are you so unhappy? The question hit Cthulhu's like a physical blow. What? You have all this power, all these people following you, but you seem very unhappy. What is wrong? No one had ever asked the Supreme Overlord about his feelings before. I am not unhappy. I am powerful. Being powerful and being happy are not the same thing, Sujin said gently. Do you have friends? Family? People who care about you? I do not need friends. I have subjects. That sounds lonely, Hyun-soo said with genuine sympathy. In the crowd, aliens were whispering to each other. They feel sorry for him, said one. They are about to die, but they worry about his loneliness, said another. What kind of beings are these humans? A young alien from the planet Mortak stood up in the crowd. Supreme Overlord, she called out. Why must these humans die? Guards immediately moved toward her, but Cthulhu's held up a hand. Because they are dangerous. How are they dangerous? They helped sick people on the ship. They were kind to the crew. They asked too many questions. Another alien stood up. What is wrong with questions? Then another. They treated our people with respect. They made our soldiers feel important. They said everyone has value. More and more beings in the crowd were standing up and speaking. For the first time in their lives, they were not afraid to voice their thoughts. Cthulhu's realized what was happening. The humans had somehow inspired the crowd to think for themselves. Guards, arrest anyone who speaks out of turn. But there were too many people speaking now. Hundreds of beings were standing and talking about freedom, about equality, about being treated with kindness. The guards looked confused. They could not arrest half the stadium. In the chaos, Jae-woo spoke quietly to his crew. I did not expect this to happen. Neither did I, Yunbi said. But look at them. They are not afraid anymore. We did this just by being ourselves, Taeho said with wonder. Maybe being ourselves was enough, Sujin added. Hyun-soo watched the crowd with sadness. I hope they will be okay after we are gone. But the uprising was growing bigger. Aliens who had been silent for centuries were finally finding their voices. They were not asking for violence or revenge, they were asking for dignity. We want to be treated like the humans treat people, called out an alien from the planet Kexthor. We want our opinions to matter, shouted another. We want kindness instead of fear. Supreme Overlord Cthulhu's looked at the chaos around him and realized he had made a terrible mistake. He had brought these humans here to show his power, but instead they had shown something more powerful than any weapon. They had shown that another way of living was possible. Commander Zephyra, who was watching from a special platform, turned to Admiral Thexmore. "Sir, what do we do now?" Admiral Thexmore looked at the crowd of beings who were no longer afraid to speak their minds. "I do not know," he said quietly. "I have never seen anything like this." The humans stood calmly in the center of the storm they had accidentally created, still worried more about everyone else's safety than their own fate. They had no idea that they had just started the biggest change in galactic history. The chaos in the stadium spread across Veltharion like fire. News of the uprising reached other planets within hours. On worlds throughout the galaxy, beings who had lived in fear for generations suddenly heard that change was possible. Supreme Overlord Cthulhu stood on the platform, watching his empire crumble before his eyes. The crowd was no longer shouting. Instead, they were doing something far more dangerous. They were leaving. Hundreds of beings were walking out of the stadium, not in anger, but in quiet dignity. They were simply refusing to be part of the system anymore. "Stop," Cthulhu commanded. "You cannot leave without permission." But they kept walking. Aliens from dozens of worlds moving slowly but steadily toward the exits. "Guards, stop them!" The guards looked at each other uncertainly. There were thousands of people leaving. They could not stop them all without violence, and somehow violence seemed wrong after what they had witnessed. Captain Jaewu watched this with amazement. "We really did not mean for this to happen," he said to his crew. "I know," Sujin replied. "But maybe it needed to happen." Commander Zephyra approached the platform where the humans stood. "Supreme Overlord," she said carefully, "we have reports coming in from across the Empire." "What reports?" "Beings on 17 different worlds have stopped reporting to their Veltar supervisors. They are not fighting or causing trouble. They are just not participating anymore." Admiral Thexmore added, "Sir, 40% of my crew has requested permission to leave the military." "Permission denied." "Sir, they are not asking to desert. They want to resign properly and go home to their families." Cthulhu felt his world spinning out of control. "This is all because of these humans." He turned to face Jaewu. "Look what you have done." Jaewu looked genuinely sorry. "We did not mean to cause problems. We were just trying to be polite." "Polite? You destroyed my empire with politeness? We do not want to destroy anything. We just want to go home." Teho had been quietly studying the Veltar technology around them. "Actually, Captain, I think I figured out how to fix our quantum drive." "You did?" "Yes. Their technology is more advanced than ours, but the basic principles are the same. If we can borrow some of their power crystals and modify our engine, we should be able to get back to Earth." Supreme Overlord Cthulhu stared at them. "You want to leave?" "Of course," Yunbi said. "We have been trying to tell you that from the beginning. We just want to go home to our families. But if you leave, maybe things will go back to normal." Yunsu shook his head sadly. "I do not think so. The people have remembered that. They deserve to be treated with kindness. You cannot make them forget that again." Around the galaxy, the human infection was spreading, but it was not spreading through violence or force. It was spreading through simple acts of kindness. On the planet Mortak, alien workers were asking their supervisors why they could not have breaks to eat meals with their families. On Kexthor, soldiers were refusing to punish civilians for asking questions. On Zixara, teachers were encouraging students to think for themselves instead of just memorizing facts. None of them were being violent. They were just acting like the humans had taught them, with dignity and respect for others. Back on Veltharion, a young Veltar officer named Sub-Commander Morthek approached the platform. "Supreme Overlord," he said, "I request permission to speak." "What is it?" "Sir, I have been thinking about what the humans said. Do not think, obey. But sir, thinking has helped me understand something important. Cathalos was too tired to fight anymore." "What?" "I want to be a better leader. The humans showed me that true strength comes from helping others, not from making them afraid. Another officer stepped forward. I agree, sir. I want to learn how to treat my soldiers the way the humans treat their crew. Then another. Sir, could we invite the humans to teach us their ways? Kithulos looked around at his officers, at the emptying stadium, at reports of peaceful change spreading across the galaxy. For the first time in his long life, he felt truly afraid. But it was not fear of losing power. It was fear of being left behind while everyone else learned to be better. You want to learn from them? He asked quietly. Yes, sir, Morthek said. They have something we do not have. What is that? Happiness, sir. They are happy and they make others happy too. Supreme Overlord Kethulos looked at Jae-woo. The human captain was watching the conversation with patient interest, not gloating about victory or demanding anything. Human, Kethulos said, if I let you go home, will you teach us your ways first? Jae-woo looked surprised. Our ways? How to be like you. We are not special. We just try to be kind to everyone. That is what I want to learn. Jae-woo looked at his crew. They all nodded. We can try to help, he said. But we really do want to go home soon. Our families will worry about us. Yes, families, Kethulos said slowly. He had not thought about his own family in decades. He had been too busy ruling an empire. Commander Zephyra stepped forward. Captain Kim, if you teach us what you can, I would like to come with you to see Earth. You want to visit our planet? I want to see a world that raises people like you. Admiral Thexmore nodded. As do I. Soon, dozens of Veltar officers were asking if they could visit Earth. They wanted to learn about democracy, about kindness, about treating everyone as equals. Jae-woo felt overwhelmed. I do not know if our government will allow so many visitors at once. We will ask nicely, Zephyra said, remembering what she had learned from the humans. Supreme Overlord Kethulos made the hardest decision of his life. I hereby dissolve the Veltar hegemony, he announced. All worlds are free to govern themselves. The few people still in the stadium cheered. But, he continued, I ask that we work together to learn better ways of living. The humans have shown us that there is a different path. 3 weeks later, the Harmony's Edge prepared to leave for Earth. The ship had been repaired and upgraded with Veltar technology. Following behind them was a small fleet of alien ships carrying beings who wanted to learn about human society. As they prepared for departure, Jae-woo received a message from Earth. Captain Kim, came the voice of Earth. Control. We have been receiving strange messages from various alien species asking about cultural exchange programs. What exactly happened out there? Jae-woo looked at his crew, then at the alien ships preparing to follow them home. We got lost, he said simply. But I think we found something better than what we were looking for. Which was what? Friends. As the ships jumped to quantum drive and headed toward Earth, Jae-woo reflected on their journey. They had left home to collect rocks from asteroids. Instead, they had accidentally helped an entire galaxy discover that kindness was more powerful than fear. Sujin was already planning the welcome party they would throw for their new alien friends. Taeho was excited to share human engineering with beings who had technology beyond Earth's dreams. Yunbi was working on translation programs so humans and aliens could communicate better. Hyun-soo was preparing medical information to help alien visitors stay healthy on Earth. Behind them, the former Veltar Empire was learning to become something new. Dozens of worlds working together not because they were forced to, but because they chose to. All because 5 humans had refused to stop being kind, even when they were afraid. Sometimes, the smallest acts of kindness can change the universe. The humans had proved that treating others with dignity and respect was not weakness. It was the greatest strength of all. And somewhere in space, more alien species were receiving messages about these strange, wonderful beings called humans, who believed that everyone deserved to be treated well. The galaxy would never be the same.